Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.
I'm Al Bledsoe, Veterans of Foreign War, Post 1108.
Ron Chappell, Veterans of Foreign War 1108, and Chaplain for Vietnam Veterans, Post 777. And our guest this morning is, Chief?
James Branum.
All right, Richmond Police Department. All right.
And we're pleased to have
Yes.
Richmond Police Department with us today and
Yes.
Share some of their ideas for veterans and what they can do for the veterans in the community. And first of all, we want to thank you for your service.
Yes.
That's a task nowadays that we realize that's pretty difficult to do that,
Yeah.
I guess would be the right word to use.
Well, you know, I
But
see it really as akin to military service. And
certainly.
Really, you know, you're, this most recent issue or situation with the young officer there in, what was it?
Boone County.
Boone County.
Boone County.
Yeah. Those kind of things bring to light the seriousness and the dangers involved, you know. But at the same time, it's an honorable profession. Yeah.
Thank you.
When you go out, we can get started with some of these questions because I'm curious to know these. When you go out on, let's say you've been called and maybe there's a problem on North 20th Street, and you go out, is there a certain amount of nervousness there, or is it just adrenaline kicking in that helps you work through all of that stuff?
Yeah, I think, there's an adrenaline kick. With today's communications, you're getting updated on what's going on through dispatch your entire time that you're traveling to that call, as opposed to 30 years ago when they just say it's a domestic dispute at such and such an address. Now the entire time the guys are headed that way, they're being told maybe there's been some violence involved or there's children present, because the dispatcher generally is going to be on the phone that entire time gathering information. So that's improved considerably.
So is it protocol, I notice sometimes even like with a speeding ticket or just anything kind of small, if you will, that there's always two officers. There's one officer and then you wait just a little bit and there'll be another officer there. I think that's good, good business.
And that's something we've really pushed the last couple of years since our administration took over is, watch each other's back, take care of each other.
Certainly.
Back each other up. So I'm encouraged that you said that because it tells me that the guys are heeding that and doing that. So
I noticed you got the black band on your badge. Yeah,
right, and that's for Deputy Pickett from Boone County.
Yes. Okay.
We used to do this when officers would get killed all the time.
Sure.
But to be real honest, we'd have them on all the time practically anymore.
Yeah.
If you did that for the whole country.
Yeah. Well, I felt the same way when I was in Nam and in Laos. It didn't really matter what branch of service you were in. We're all together, and we're all pulling for and working for supporting
It's just,
one another.
I've got to say that because it's just absolutely insane the way we treat police officers and government officials like that. I mean, I've got to say that. Only because I strongly feel that this country is headed for a disaster.
Well, now that's a whole nother program.
Well, I know it is. I know it is, but I just had to ramble that out there. I just wanted to get that out there because.
Let's talk about.
Let's talk about Richmond
the police department, Chief. One of the things I noticed on the webpage, I like this value statement. This is great. I like this.
And our value statement is that we want to deliver quality police services with integrity to all our citizens. So they're our customer base, for lack of a better word. So
let me read this for our viewers. In our pursuit for excellence in policing, the Richmond Police Department will hold itself and its members accountable for our actions. That's good right there. Perform our duties with integrity, serve our community with the highest degree of professionalism, let honesty be our guide, and uphold the public trust in our agency. Did you write that?
Some of it. A little bit of it was plagiarized. But,
Well, it's okay.
there's no sense reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
That's right. That's good. That's good. So, about the department, how long has the Richmond Police Department been around?
The police department started, I'll get this year wrong, but mid-1800s
Right.
with, I think, 2 or 3 officers who were basically night watchmen, who shook doorknobs and such. Eventually, as the city grew, obviously the police department needed to grow.
Right.
When I came on the police department in 1986, there were 77 officers, and that number fluctuated during the last mayor's administration. It got down to about 66 officers at one point, which was not enough.
No.
When I became chief, I think we had 72, and we've added a couple of officers each year through city council, which has just done a great job of working with the police department as well as Mayor Snow. So we're currently authorized for 76 officers, and we are in the middle of a hiring process right now. So.
Oh, that's great. So this is very timely.
So part of your training, do you, like your weapon, I see you're packing a weapon obviously, but so part of that, you have to go through training to learn how to use that and properly use that.
Yeah, when we hire somebody, they get a 40-hour firearms course here with our people. Then there's also about 40 hours at the police academy once they're there.
Oh, wow.
And then we train monthly. Not always with the sidearm, sometimes it's a shotgun, or we have patrol rifles now. But
So you have to train on all those weapons, not just the one you're
correct.
packing there.
Right.
Wow.
And keep updated. Keep yourself
keep
your
constantly
skill level
updated.
up.
yeah, the state actually only requires you to qualify once a year. We require 6 times a year, so
All right. That's good.
yeah, we're a little above.
That's
the
okay.
academy.
That's all
But
right.
yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
wrong with that.
Yeah.
How many officers work on a shift? You have what, 3 shifts?
Yeah.
2 shifts? 3?
We have about 50. Our goal is to have 15 on each patrol shift.
Okay.
And that kind of fluctuates with people, ill or hurt or whatever. And then, of course, we have 10 detectives. We have now a juvenile and a traffic division. And then we have a narcotics unit. So if you add all those guys up, plus currently we have I think we have 11 who are going through training. We have 4 at the academy. We have others in various stages of training. So we have everybody accounted for, but
Sure.
it's,
So you have sub-departments that specialize in certain areas. How many sub-departments are there?
There's the narcotics division, detective division, which is the largest. There's about 10 detectives. We have a juvenile division, which is new this year. Not necessarily new. It's been revitalized this year. We had a juvenile division when I came on for several years, and then it kind of went by the wayside. But we've started that back up. We have Tim Davis, who a lot of the community is familiar with, and Tim's very active in the schools, and he's developed a protocol or a course of study through Safety Village that he teaches. He's with the little kids, and I'm talking 2nd, 3rd graders, because the county's already in the junior high and high school, but we're kind of taking care of the elementaries. We have a traffic division which investigates all our serious accidents and obviously does traffic enforcement. I have to have a full-time officer in our IT department now,
Okay.
just because
Yeah.
of the way that
Sure.
is developing. And then we have Captain Bill Shake, who does our intelligence work and all our statistics and all that kind of stuff. So
Wow, that's pretty comprehensive.
Yep.
Yeah, gee whiz.
Do you have to patrol the schools any, like Richmond High School? Do you have officers there?
yeah, what we do, if you have a school in your district, your patrol district, you're expected to be at that school around the time the buses are arriving, the kids are arriving for school. And then we like them to be there at dismissal, just to have a police presence.
Sure.
We don't interact a lot with I'm not going to say we never do, but we don't interact as much with the junior high and high school because the county provides school resource officers for those schools. Okay. But the elementaries, hopefully my guys are in the elementaries just about every day, at least speaking with the administration and such.
So let's talk about how How do you become a police officer?
Okay.
You know, I'm looking. I want to be a police
Okay.
officer. You don't got hired the old guys. But
Keep looking.
In Indiana, for
I'd say that. You left it open, buddy.
for Class 2 cities, which is what Richmond is, we're part of PERF, obviously the retirement program, and that requirement is 21 to 35 years old. You would have to be hired before your 36th birthday.
okay.
What our process is, we use a company called EMPCO for our testing, for our written test. You have to score 70% on that test. You can take that at IU East, at Ivy Tech. And when we're in a process, they offer that test almost every day, sometimes multiple times a day. So it's real easy to run out there and take the test. It is $75 to take that test. However, we will give you back your $75 if we give you a job.
What does that test consist of? What
I don't even know how many questions are on it. We do not have a lot of input in the test.
Okay.
It's a nationwide standardized test that they use all over the country. A lot of police departments, the sheriff's department here locally uses it. We use it. A lot of departments around the country do. But let's say you get your 70%. You've got through that part. Our next phase is our agility test, and we usually run that on a Saturday. And it's we use what we call the academy standards. So the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy has an agility test as well. So we use their exit standards. So we know that our guys are going to get into the academy because they're going to pass the exit standard. So we do that. You get past that part, then we have an interview. And that's an interview board that's made up of officers all across the department, different ranks, different shifts. We try to use a different board each time, so we weren't using the same guys. And there's a minimum score for that. I believe it's a 70 also. You get past that, then we've kind of whittled that group of people down considerably. Then we have a second interview that we call the chief's interview, where you just interview with myself and the two majors. And it's a little more informal, but we may ask you a little more in-depth questions. And we get past that, then we come up with our hiring list.
Do we have many young people that are applying to be police officers?
Not near as many. You know, when I came on again, it was 1986, but there was probably 100 people that took that test. This recent process that we're in right now, I think we had 20.
Wow.
So we don't have near the response that we used to. Of course, it's not the glamorous job that it was. And, a lot of media about, police weren't like anybody else. There's mistakes that have been made. I'd be the first to admit that.
Yeah.
But I think the media does a overkill.
Yeah, I
a
agree
little
with
overkill.
you.
Well, they do. They tell it like, they do a real injustice. They don't tell it like it is, and they spin it one way or the other. I just get really irritated with that. Because
So once you get on the list, is there a guaranteed hire date, or
No.
do you just on the list for?
Yeah, well, currently, let's say we get a list out of these 20 people who have applied of, let's say 5, just for an arbitrary number. Right now we have 2 openings, and we have 2 openings because City Council raised our authorized strength up to 76.
Okay.
So we'll hire 2 immediately. Then the other 3 will remain on our list, and if and when some people retire usually that list is for 2 years. Right. So we have some people retire during that 2 years, then they'll be the next ones brought up.
So if 2 years go by and I don't get hired, I have to come back and do the whole
Starting
thing
all over again. Yeah.
wow. Do you hire many women? Do women apply for?
Yeah,
police
we've
officers?
hired, I won't have this number right either, but I've hired 21 people since I've been chief, which is huge for our department. It's almost, almost a third. And I'm guessing we've probably hired, I'll say 6 females out of that group, out of 21.
Do guys and ladies, do they stick with it? Is it the kind of a job that once they get involved a couple of years or whatever, they stick with it? Or?
The thing about, and this is something I kind of stress to council, we don't want to, much like the sheriff said, we don't want to become a stepping stone for other departments. We don't want to hire these guys, train them, and then they go, Fisher's, for instance, pays about $8,000 more than we do the same job. Cost of living's a little more, and if you can explain that to young people that come on,
Right.
but still, we don't want to become that stepping stone. So, the officers got a raise this past year, but it was well deserved. And
Sure.
You know, our big thing, we talked with the mayor about increasing the size of the department. It was just as important to retain the ones we have, so we aren't going through that whole training thing again.
So what's that rate?
Go ahead.
What's the wage? Can you talk about that?
Wage for a first-class patrolman, that's a guy who's got his year on, he's got through his probation, is about $44,000 a year. Now, you start on day one, you're at 80% of that pay, and that's a city policy.
Okay.
And once you complete your academy, we bump you up to 90%, and then once you completed your year, which is your probationary period, then it's 100% of that wage.
Come a long
Uniforms,
way.
are your uniforms furnished?
Yeah,
Or
we pay for all that.
you pay for all that yourself out of that?
No, we pay for that. The police
Yeah.
department does.
Yeah. Come a long way, because I remember when I was at the city, I think they were in like the 25s,
Yep.
30s.
Yep.
And I remember when Sheikh was chief, and he hired a company to go to different universities. We were trying to increase minority representation, and it had a list of about 25. But other places that were paying in the 30s beat us out.
Yeah.
And I kind of got angry at the guy, upset with the guy from the place,
Right.
from the recruiting place. And I said, had you given us the opportunity to talk to them, we could have shown them where the cost of living
Right.
would have made it comparable, you know.
Yeah. Because $44,000 in Richmond, Indiana is a very livable wage.
You better know it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you have to have a service mind. I mean, you have to be a good police officer.
Yep.
You have to really have that mind to be of service because,
very true.
I mean, the money's important. Obviously, you have to have money to do whatever you're going to do. But I think the service, you have to have that mind that I'm going to serve. It's just like the service or anything. You have to have that mind. You just don't arbitrarily go, I want to join the service. You really have to think about that, I think. I mean, back in our day. I mean, today, I don't know, but back in our day.
Considering what was going on, yeah.
I mean, when I got out of high school, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to join the service, and I wanted to be able to wear a uniform and salute the flag.
Yeah.
That was my whole goal in life.
Yeah.
Speaking about our guys,
Yeah.
what are the incentives for veterans, people coming out of the military? Are they a primary priority?
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that I've hired 21 since I became chief. 8 of those have been veterans.
Wow, that's excellent.
We offer, in the whole process, you get an extra point for being a veteran, and that's reservist, National Guard, active person. We have done, I just found out this morning, we were talking about getting ready to do the show. We've done 2 Skype interviews with people who were overseas to try to accommodate that. We have a young man in this current process that's going to be in that same that probably going to be deployed before we get to the interview process. So we'll do the Skype thing with him to give him that opportunity as well. So we're all about hiring veterans if we can.
So he's in Germany, Afghanistan, wherever.
He'll be in Afghanistan, we believe, by the time we get to our process.
Look
or
at
our
technology.
interview.
That's
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So do you find that veterans are easier to train? Do they fall into the mode easier?
Yeah, law enforcement's a paramilitary organization in almost all cases. So they're used to that discipline, that a little more rigid. We tell them we're going to start at 7 o'clock in the morning. They're there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And we, particularly with this current generation of young people, sometimes that's not a concept they get.
Yeah.
But our veterans do. And,
you're right.
and they always do well at the academy because that's even more structured than we are, at least that first few weeks. So, yeah, we love our veterans.
Yeah. So is there a way, I mean, this program, of course, where we focus on veterans and the veteran community, but are there other ways that maybe we or other organizations can assist the police department in appealing to veterans to apply?
Well, the process that we're in right now, we've just ended the testing portion of it. So we're just a few weeks late on that. But yeah, I mean, I think making them aware of the fact that we're always in a semi hiring process. If they have questions about the department, they feel free to call myself or Major John Bales. He's kind of in charge of our hiring process, and we would always answer their questions and make them aware of when our next testing process will be.
It's a tough job when you're dealing with the public, especially when you're dealing law enforcement like that. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, you stop a guy for speeding or something, you don't know what that guy's thinking. Sure. You don't know what that guy's doing.
Yeah.
That would be a little bit nerve-wracking, I would think.
Well, from our military experience,
Yeah.
in that they're almost in a continual combat environment.
Yeah,
kind of
always on the
situation.
ready. At
Yeah,
least.
Yeah, you always got to be ready.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
What do your ribbons mean? Tell me about those ribbons. That's interesting. I don't
Well,
know
this
if we
was,
can focus on that or not.
I was a SWAT member,
Okay.
a member of our SWAT team, and that's what that is. The green and blue was Supervisor of the Year a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The red, white, and blue was Officer of the Year back
Wow,
in
that's good.
1996, so a long time ago. And Pella is a Police Executive Leadership Academy, and it's just a management
Mm-hmm.
school that I went through.
Are guys hard to get along with? I mean, once you hire them and they've been there a couple of years, you still have to give them the direction they need and constantly training, probably, I would guess.
Yeah, there's training. I mean, there's a requirement from the state. I think it's 24 hours a year of in-service training. The thing about being a policeman, it's a pretty independent lifestyle.
Sure.
We don't stand over people. We don't have minimum number of tickets you have to write and that kind of thing. When you're out there, you're doing your own thing, and we have officers who are very aggressive, and they've got maybe a drug arrest every day. That's what they've kind of focused on. And then we have some who, like any other industry, we have some who don't work quite as hard as what
Yeah.
they
Not necessarily.
More
But they
laid
need
back.
to.
Yeah.
And then we have to have a discussion with them about that.
Yeah.
I think, just from what I read in the papers, I think you guys are doing a great job busting these drug dealers.
Yeah. One thing about, there's a pro and a con to having a really young department. Of course, that con is, maybe we don't always handle things as well as we could have, as a veteran officer would have. But the other thing is, my second shift, for instance, they just tear it up when it comes to particularly drug enforcement.
Yeah.
Well, they have to have
really
a
good
certain
job.
temperament to be able to deal with that
Right.
stuff, because when you're dealing with a guy that's on drugs or something, you don't know what that clown's thinking.
Well, they're
So-
young too, and they probably got some friends that know some things, and
Sure.
kind of just share.
Yep.
And it makes it easier
all
for them
true.
to get that information.
Right.
Yeah, shoot.
I won't say the officers, but you, of course, know who they are. But they had a guy stopped one time, and I was stopped also. And the officer, they were in the middle of a bust.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't realize that until the other officer came up, and then, because they were actually almost hateful about it. And that wasn't their style, because, I know these guys. And then afterwards, they said, we was right in the middle of something. And of course, it became real obvious what they were doing later, that they was shaking the guy down. And that guy was loaded with all kinds of stuff. It was just
I
crazy.
tell you, if it was
To
right
me,
now,
that'd make me nervous. I'd pull a gun and ask questions later, I guess, probably.
right now
should be
for
that
me,
way.
if I was coming on, I'd want to get one of those SWAT badges.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be SWAT.
I want to carry a shotgun. A sawed-off shotgun, by the way. But
So Chief, how do they get in touch with you? How do they get in touch with the department?
We have a website, obviously,
Yeah.
which won't answer a lot of the hiring questions. Usually, we have something on our Facebook page, and it does answer a little better about our hiring process. Welcome to call anytime, 983-7247. Ask for myself or Major John Bales. Like I said, Major Bales pretty much runs the hiring process, and he can tell you dates and this is when I'm doing this and that. So, so John's very knowledgeable about that information.
well, this has been a good thing today.
One thing I didn't get, what is the minimum age for
21.
application?
21.
21.
Okay.
Now you have, let me rephrase that. You have to be 21 by the time you're hired. Now you could take the test at 20,
Okay.
but by the time we actually gave you a job, it'd have to be 21.
And as far as your record, I know you can't have any felonies.
Right.
Is
We
there
do a pretty thorough background
Okay.
check. There are some misdemeanors that are excused, I guess.
Okay.
For lack of a better word. By state law, we cannot hire anybody with a felony conviction.
Right.
And it's not even an RPD rule. That's state law. So we look at that. It depends on what the misdemeanor was, how long ago it was.
Right.
No drug use, with the exception, there is a place in state law now where we can hire someone who has been a marijuana user if they haven't used any in 12 months prior to being hired. So that's something we look at now too.
Okay.
Well, we're going to get ready to shut it down, and thank you for your service. You guys really do a good job, and the veteran community I know supports what you guys do, and you just do a job that's unthankful a lot of times. That we just don't say that enough. That we.
One more thing before we close out.
Okay.
Do you have like a cadet program for young people?
Since you brought that
Man,
up, we have been working on it. We actually just had a meeting this morning, and there is going to be a call out for young people 16 to 20.
Okay.
That meeting is April 11th at 7 p.m. in the community room at the City Building.
We need to get that out then, April 11th.
April 11th.
Yeah.
So we quite honestly like to see that be a bit of a feeder program for the police department.
All right.
Yeah.
And so we're pretty excited about that program.
All right.
That'd
So
be
you
good.
heard it here.
Yeah.
Probably we
You
served.
heard it here first.
So get them out there to the meeting. And we should air this program before then. I believe.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So.
Thank you
Okay.
again
All
for
right,
your
thank you.
service,
Thanks,
and we've
Steve.
really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate
it.
it.
was
All
great. Really good.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, folks. See you next
See ya.
time.
Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.